Breaking news into the NewsNation studio. Thanks for joining us here on NewsNation. I am Aaron Nolan. The Senate has just blocked a debate on establishment of the January 6th Commission, needing 6 more votes from Republicans. I want to go directly now to Washington, D.C., and our Washington, D.C. correspondent Joe Khalil joins us. Joe, we just heard from Chuck Schumer, who said, quote, "Shame on the Republicans." Your thoughts and what you're hearing in Washington as the debate will not happen on the establishment of a January 6th commission?
Well, you know, it is what we expected to happen. There were 3 Republicans that had been very publicly saying they would support it. In the end, they actually got 3 more. So 6 Republicans supported this commission. But I mean, the politics of this really dictated what was going to happen here. We know that Senator Mitch McConnell had actually asked all of his members as a favor, and we did confirm that with another Republican senator, to not vote for this commission. He felt it was going to hurt them in the next election, 2022 midterm elections, that if we have this commission and then publish results from it, that Democrats would be able to use that to campaign on. And so, it's a sad reality that politics factors in so much to, these types of things. But, that is ultimately what happened here. The vote ended up being 54-35. So you actually had 11 people that didn't vote, but still they fell short. They needed 3/5 of all the votes that were there. They didn't get up to 60. And so, this is where we are now. This commission, and by the way, it's a procedural thing, but for those watching at home, this vote that they just took now was not to pass the bill or create the commission. It was simply just to begin debate on the commission. And so because that did not happen, it's going nowhere, and we're now at a standstill.
All right, let's go back and talk about what happened in the House. This January 6th commission did pass the House with 36 Republicans voting in favor. Any surprise that the Republican Party on the Senate side was a little bit closer to the vest in voting with party lines than what happened over in the House? And I understand there's a lot more in Congress than there are in the Senate, but I still think it's interesting that you had 36 compared to, a handful that happened today in the Senate.
Yeah, it was interesting that there were so many in the House, frankly, in such a divided time. I think there was definitely more pressure on the Senate side from leaders. And we can have a whole nother debate about how powerful the leadership is in both parties today, as opposed to 20 years ago, where it was much more common where you'd have people vote against their own party. But Mitch McConnell clearly has a pretty strong. There was certainly. It was surprising that 36 or so Republicans in the House decided to buck their party leadership. But that's where we are today, and so I think what you saw was added pressure as this bill got further and further. We should say, by the way, the bill came out of the House in a bipartisan way. There was a Republican House member, Republican John Katko from New York, who it was basically him and it was one Democrat working together to put this plan together, and they got this commission that would have been 5 and 5 Republican choices, 5 Democrat choices for people leading this commission. So I think he had a better understanding, a better relationship with his own Republicans in the House, fellow Republicans, and he was able to lobby them and convince them this was going to be done fairly. This was a truly bipartisan commission. You didn't have that sort of closeness to the creation of it in the Senate, and then of course, as we've already talked about, McConnell's influence over the rest of the members on the Senate side.
One thing, as we continue to talk about the January 6th Commission and what happened, the insurrection on the Capitol building, that we talk about is this commission was kind of based on the 9/11 Commission. Joe, talk to us about the thought process of what was trying to be done. And I guess the second part of that question is the January 6th Commission done from the political side?
So it was almost exactly modeled after the 9/11 Commission. And in fact, when this January 6th Commission started, when the ball started to get rolling, both sides consulted the 9/11 Commission leaders, the guys who did it back in 2002. At the very beginning, when the plan was put out, they opposed the structure of it because they thought it was unbalanced. Speaker Pelosi came out with a plan originally like 8 Democrat choices and 3 Republican choices. And right away they said, you got to have it split 50-50. So they actually came around. And what was being voted on today was a 5-5 even split for this commission. The 9/11 commissioners actually endorsed this bill, and they thought that it should go forward as it was written right now. When you ask about what happens next, it's not that there's going to be no investigation here into January 6th. The difference is there's going to be no bipartisan investigation that is mainly done outside of Congress. What we have now, what the alternative is Speaker Pelosi has been very clear. She may put together what is known as a select committee now. So this is going to be another committee done in Congress. It may very well be bipartisan. You may have an even number of Republicans and Democrats on it, and they will continue to have subpoena power. They'll be able to subpoena anybody who was involved in any way, which may include former President Trump, may include House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. The big difference, if they go that route with the select committee, Aaron, is that it doesn't have the appearance of being nonpartisan, of being outside of Congress. That was the real benefit of the 9/11 Commission and of this January 6th one. It's not done in the Capitol. It's an outside entity. And I think if they produce results, it has a little more weight with the American public. Because let's be honest, if you're a right-leaning person in the country, are you going to believe, are you going to trust the results of a commission that is led by Nancy Pelosi? Probably not. This commission would have been different, but that's the situation we're in now.
Well, you brought up bipartisanship, and one thing that we have learned, well, first and foremost, NewsNation is focused on not being party-oriented. We're not going to tell you where to go left or right, but there is no denying, Joe, that right now in politics, partisanship is something that is heavily dictating decision-making from the people who are elected. And I want to read a couple of things that I wrote down. I listened to Chuck Schumer just moments ago. He mentioned there was a fear of Donald Trump, the former president of the United States. Donald Trump called what was happening today and the establishment of this 9/11 commission a Democrat trap. So we're seeing partisanship like never before in this country, I would argue.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say that. It may certainly be true. I mean, when Chuck Schumer says that Republicans didn't want to cast this vote because they're scared of former President Trump. It is certainly true. The former president carries a lot of weight. You go back to the Liz Cheney situation. That largely happened because, former president did not want her in leadership. So he certainly has a ton of influence. I might argue that in this case specifically, it was the McConnell influence more so than the Trump influence, because Senator McConnell is a political animal, just like his counterpart Chuck Schumer is on the other side, and I think their eyes are looking ahead to 2022. It is going to be a very tight Senate race, the balance of power there. It's a 50-50 split right now. One loss in one direction or another is going to be crucial. And, from sources that I've talked to, Mitch McConnell is very much aware of that. He doesn't want to have Democrats campaigning hard on the January 6th commission and the results and whatever it might find. So, you put right and wrong aside, whether it's the right thing to do. And if you just look at this in sort of a cynical political way, you find the reasoning for why so many Republicans did not cast a vote for this, even though after January 6th and the days after, basically everybody called for a commission just like the one that they were voting on today and said they support it. Today, not so much.
Joe, I want to let you get back to what you're doing. You're preparing your stories for our newscast later. And if you're just joining us, Joe Khalil joins us from Washington, D.C. We're talking about the breaking news that the Senate has blocked debate on the establishment of a January 6th commission. Of course, we're talking about January 6th, the insurrection on the Capitol of the United States. Finally, let's talk about the filibuster, because all of this was brought in here and the process that there may be discussion beginning to stop the filibuster by the Democratic Party.
Yeah, those discussions have been happening for a few months now, basically since January when,
But does this give it more fuel?
You think it does? Yeah, you think it would. I mean, Democrats have been talking about this for a while, but this is the first time Republicans are actually using it. There was a majority vote to continue this. There were 54 votes to move this commission forward. Because they couldn't get to 60, Republicans had that power to require a 60 vote. So there are a ton of issues right now that have gone through the House that the Senate has yet to vote on. It could be voting rights. It could be a minimum wage. It could be this very commission. It could be gun reform. But all of these things are sort of stacking up, and Democrats have the votes to move them forward. And then there's this roadblock in the Senate, which is the filibuster that we saw used today. So when those chips keep building more and more, you have all these different issues, and this is the first time we're actually seeing it done. You're absolutely right. This may give a sort of kickstart to that discussion, and we're hearing that from a lot of Democrats who say this is exactly why you need to get rid of the filibuster.
Well, very quickly, and then I promise you I'll let you go, Joe, but I want to talk about the infrastructure vote. President Biden has put a deadline of Memorial Day on a vote to get funding to the infrastructure across the United States. Are we closer to that, or is that goal of Memorial Day not going to happen?
I think the president is going to be flexible on that goal. I talked to Senator Capito a day or two ago, and she is leading the infrastructure plan on the Republican side. And she thinks that the president's going to be more flexible. We've heard a White House source say that as well. They're going to continue to, I think, negotiate this thing out. Seems like Republicans are coming up in their number, and seems like there may be a willingness for Democrats, for the White House to come down a little bit. I would still argue that they're still pretty far apart, especially because you have numbers. That's one part of it. But the bigger part is, how do you pay for it? And I don't think they're anywhere closer. Republicans have said to me that increasing taxes at all on corporations is a red line. They will not cross. They do not want to do that. On the White House's side, that is the main way that they want to pay for this infrastructure package. So they're far apart, and you may see these negotiations fall apart, frankly, in the long run. But I don't think that Memorial Day deadline is a hard and fast one. So expect negotiations, at least, to continue.
Joe Khalil, we're going to let you get back to work. Got a lot going on for News Nation that gets started a little bit later. Joe, thanks so much. Appreciate you.
All right. Of course, man. Always good to be with you, Aaron.
All right, Joe Khalil reporting for us out of Washington, D.C. As I mentioned, much more happening on the Senate floor. You're taking a look right now at what is going on there in Washington. And, of course, coming up tonight on News Nation, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central for News Nation Early Edition. We'll start off talking about everything that happened in Washington, D.C. and the commission, the January 6th commission. Those debates will not happen now after the Senate has blocked those. All of that starting again at 6 o'clock. 5 o'clock Central for News Nation Early Edition. And if you don't know about News Nation, I'll take a moment and tell you a little bit about it. We are a brand new network newscast, and we are focused right down the middle lane. We're not going to tell you how to think on the left. We're not going to tell you how to think on the right. That's not my job. It's your job to figure out how you think about the news. So that's what we're going to do. If you want to watch us, go to newsnationnow.com, enter your zip code. We'll tell you exactly how to watch us. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll have much more right here on this Facebook page and our website, newsnationnow.com. I'm Aaron Nolan. Have a great Friday.